Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Retrograde Entropy. Welcome back to another daily vlog. I'm not sure if I need a drink, but I'm going to take one anyway. Sometimes my webcam does really silly things where it cuts the frame rate down or something like that. No, frame rate seems to be okay. Once I had it and it was like 5 frames a second or something. Or 2 frames a second, it was stuck on that, and the frame rate feels... There we go. The frame rate was a little bit sluggish there, maybe 10 frames a second or something. No, there it goes again. It's going sluggish. Sometimes it's sluggish, sometimes it's beautiful. Anyway, we got a really long video today, really long. So the reason for this is I got my first comment from somebody named J Jar. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, but I suspect it's a woman because they say hugs to you in the middle of the comments. So I'm not sure a guy would say that. So anyway, thank you very much, JJar, and I apologize if you are a guy. But anyway, I'm probably going to talk about them, and I'm probably going to slip in a she at some point instead of a he. So if you want to know why I am misgendering you, that's why. Okay. But anyway, thank you very much for the comment. So yeah, basically they're just concerned because they feel like I'm going out and I'm going to do all this. I'm trying to do all this walking, trying to get my energy levels up. And from personal experience, they know that pushing yourself is a very easy way to make your chronic fatigue worse. And I absolutely 100% agree. And I have not been providing a lot of context as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, and there is a lot of concern out there because it's very easy to screw yourself over. It's incredibly easy. But JJ, I'll definitely I know what I'm doing. I'm like 100% sure that I know what I'm doing. I'm not just walking out there and pushing myself. I'm not even pushing myself at all. I'll go through it in a lot more detail because there's a lot of background stuff that I want to get through. As I said, this is a long video, but I feel like I was going to go over it in over a few episodes, but I feel like I'll just do it all now because I need to answer this comment and I want to answer it as thoroughly as possible. So yeah, definitely, I'm absolutely not pushing myself. I think there's well, I'll go into the whole pushing yourself thing. I've got a graph. I've actually got a graph about my chronic fatigue cycle. Well, not cycle, but my history of chronic fatigue. So I want to go through that. I've actually got a graph, so I've actually put some effort into it this morning. But I will bring up a couple of things, first of all, as a kind of pre-information. So the first is going to be this paper. Post-exertional malaise and graded exercise therapy in ME-chronic fatigue syndrome. And I think the webcam is doing funny things to it because it's got stripes that go up and down. But anyway, by S. Essens, written in 2017. This is a must-read if you are going to recover from CFS. And you're, yeah. There's some really complicated stuff in there if you read through the whole thing, but if you just read through the start, where it's got like an abstract and stuff like that. Basically, yeah, so you go on to page 2, and it's got the executive summary right there. So these 5.4, I guess there's only 4 dot points, but you get these 4 dot points, and really it's the first two, the first 2 that are the important ones, and then the 3rd and 4th just tells you why all the previous research into chronic fatigue is actually crap and why graded exercise therapy is actually a pile of dog shit. So, and I was very, very happy that I got diagnosed after this paper was written, or at the point where, because as soon as I got diagnosed, I went out, because I got really scared. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to go down the toilet, blah, 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 blah. You know, if you've got CFS, you know what I'm talking about. And for me, it was a very sudden thing, which I'll explain in more depth. But basically, it didn't grow slowly on me. It was like, boom, suddenly I've got massive amounts of CFS because of things that I was doing. So anyway, I went out, I did a crap load of research. Luckily, I found that paper, which I will link in the description. I read it. Because I was reading, and it was like, straight away, don't exercise. Don't do exercise. Don't even bother doing exercise. You're just going to make yourself worse. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. I'm not sure if I was... It kind of makes sense because one of the things that actually screwed me over that caused CFS to bump up massively was exercise, was physical activity. So I was like, okay, so, you know, don't do exercise to get better. That makes sense. So that was definitely helpful. But yeah, absolutely read that paper because when it comes to exercise, and I'm going to stop saying the word exercise because it's a shit word. Exercise means jumping on the treadmill or jumping on the exercise bike or going for a 2K walk. Exercise is stupid work. I'm going to replace it with physical activity because that's physical activity is a lot better of a word for people suffering from CFS because it doesn't just include walking or jumping on the exercise bike. Physical activity includes walking from your bed to the fridge. Or if you're really bad, it includes rolling over to grab your phone from the bedside table, which if you're really bad, then that's exertion. That's actually exertion. So physical activity. So it's all about your physical activity, matching that up with the amount of energy you've got to try and deal with it. So anyway, yeah. So there's a couple of things. I feel like let's go to the graph first. I feel like let's go to the graph, and then afterwards we can talk about. I'll talk about what happened in the graph, why the graph makes sense, blah blah blah. And this is kind of the history. And then after that, I'll talk about the specific things that I did and the thought processes behind why I did what I did to get better. So here's the graph. As you can see, it's done in Excel because I love Excel. And this is kind of historically how my chronic fatigue got worse. Now these numbers on the left-hand side are from 0 to 100. I'm going to put a link in the description as well to another page, which is Rate Your ME, CFS, blah, 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 scaled, basically. So basically, can I actually link that now? Hold on, let me see if I can link that now. Oh, it's over in the different page. So I'm going to drag this over to here. Ah, beautiful. So I'll link this in the description. You can find other pages which have a bit more detail, but basically 100 is you're beautiful, you're fantastic. 0 is bedridden. I spent most of my time around this area, so 90 and 80 are pretty much okay. 70 you can work full time, but you'll feel like shit. 60 you can't really work full time anymore, it's just impossible. And then 50 is like solely part time, so you're really on the edge of not being able to work anymore. Once you get down to 40, is just no more work anymore. So, so yep, that's the thing. So we're going to go back to, where's my mouse gone? Back to Excel. And so just to give you some sort of background. So when I started this whole CFS mess, my energy level was about 85, I would say. So I was working full time, and I was getting to work every day, and I was having some problems. So sometimes if I stay up too late, you know, I would feel like crap in the morning and I'd take a sick day. Yeah, so that would be like the extent of my CFS. And sometimes at the end of the week I'd feel really bad, blah, 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 blah. I remember I worked on the weekend once or twice. It was actually around this area as well that I worked on the weekend once. I forgot to mark that, but one day on the weekend I kind of did that. So yeah, that sort of thing. So I'll go through it. So basically the start of 2017, my energy, so the energy is the blue bar. This is how much energy I've got. This is kind of the threshold that I can work with. And then the activity, the red bar, is how much I'm doing. So in a perfect world, the red bar should never be above the blue bar. Should never, ever be above the blue bar. It should always be less. Or even. If it's even, then you're okay. If it's less, then you're actually slowly improving, giving yourself some wiggle room. So that's the good thing. So I was at that stage. And then at the start of 2017, I was 95. I decided I needed to lose some weight. Now, I didn't really exercise, but what I did do was I started eating less. So that's technically not increasing activity, but it's kind of doing that stuff. And I'm not sure if that's actually an activity gain, but it definitely screwed me over later over here as well. So I'm going to include it as an activity gain. It's kind of an inverse activity gain because you're reducing your energy by losing for needing less, whatever. So anyway, I'm marking it like this, so I don't care. This is technically energy threshold, not full energy or whatever. So anyway, moving on. So basically, I was diagnosed with Asperger's in 2012, and I'd been working on doing stuff to help me with Asperger's, going out, getting out there more, talking with people, being more active. Yes, that's definitely something that is a good idea if you got Asperger's and you're trying to get out there and deal with your Asperger's to overcome it, to be a better person. So this is what I did. So I was planning on doing a marathon in October, so I started doing marathon training around here. And I also had a ski trip planned in September. So the marathon was just after the ski trip. So I went on the ski trip. It was supposed to be for a week. After 2 days, I went home. I went home early. I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't having any fun. I'm not sure. I mean, I was tired quite a bit. Like there was a lot of stairs, a lot of walking around ice. That was tiring, but I just pushed myself through it. I was like, I'm here. I'm at a ski trip. I paid a whole bunch of money. I should be having fun. If I get a little tired, I'll just push through it. And of course, I was undiagnosed at that point. But after 2 days, I just wasn't having any fun. So I went home early, which honestly was a great idea because if I kept pushing it, this blue bar might have been going down even further. So anyway, these two were a massive mistake. And I was about 85 at this point, so all my weight loss had been done. But you can see I shot down really bad here, and then I went back to work 5 days a week. I was feeling so bad. So I finally went out and I said, what the hell is going on? This is nuts. Got my diagnosis, went to see the naturopath, still working 5 days a week this entire period, and the naturopath helped me. So she gave me some vitamins, she helped me out with my diet, blah, 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 blah. This may have actually been a little bit higher, the energy here, but I felt better. I still felt strained, I guess. I still felt like I was not having a lot of fun working 5 days a week, but I feel like this actually may be a little bit higher. I wonder if I can fix that now. So let's do that. So a 70, 70, 70, 70. Yeah. Maybe. I'm not really sure about that, to be completely honest, but that was over a year ago, so I can't really remember that side of it. I do know that I got to the point, somewhere around this area, where I was like, I was feeling okay. At this point, I was still below my activity. I was still not great. I was still doing it, but I was like, okay, I'm getting better. I feel better. And when I said I feel better is I feel better here than I was there. So I felt better. So I felt I was improving. So I was like, okay. And this was where my overconfidence kicked in because I decided, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to go back to try and lose weight again because around this area I bulked up again, back to 95. Just boom, my weight went up again. So I started to lose weight. Energy went down again. These few months, the end of 2018. Was just a shocking. I think this was this was my lowest point around here. So just terrible, absolutely terrible. So I decided this was also the point around here where I decided I wanted to take 6 months off. So take 6 months off. That's the best way to cure myself. So this is where I planned it in. I talked to my boss. I said I want 6 months off, and he said okay. And I wanted to give him plenty of time, so I said I'll take it in the second half of 2019. So I got 6 months of work and then 6 months off. So yeah. So basically what I did here was I made a few big changes around this area. So January, I had like a few weeks off, and that was when I really hit I wasn't just relying on pills from the naturopath. I still had those, but I was actually focused on exercise. Back then, back in this area, early to mid 2018, it was just like, take some pills, get better. That's basically what my approach was. Take some pills, get better. Because my naturopath was throwing a new pill at me every month to see if it would get better. Oh, try this pill, it'll work. Oh, try that pill, it'll work. And by mid to end 2018, we were kind of at the point where we were focusing a lot more on diet than on pills. And it was clear that it wasn't just going to be fixed by pills. It just wasn't. And then I went downhill, all the way down here, despite the fact that I was still taking the pills. I still don't understand how this losing weight sent me so far down. Maybe it wasn't as far down here. Maybe it was just flatlining here again, but it felt really bad. This area where I was working, especially this area, I was just working and it was just a nightmare going to work and trying to deal with that level. So I said, all right, I'm going to make a change, take 6 months off. And I knew that the next 6 months working was going to be a pain. So I said, okay, I'm going to do 4 days a week. I'm going to use all my annual leave, going to use all of my RDOs because I had an RDO every month. Planned it out. I had a bunch of annual leave, still quite a bit. So I planned it out and I said, I'm going to work 4 days a week. And I started doing stuff as well. This was a lifesaver. In January, when I had my 3 weeks off, I decided to start lying down because I have... I can't remember the exact disorder. It's some sort of condition, but where you stand up for too long and you get tired. And I sort of was getting around the idea that I had that. So I started lying down, and lying down was so good. It was amazing. So this was not the straight up jump that I got because the initial set of pills jumped me out quite a bit. That was quite awesome. But I was still taking them here, so there was no jump from the pills anymore. So yeah, but lying down and constraining my computer time and trying to focus, because at that point I was down here and the computer was still tiring me out. I'm over here now and the computer's tiring me out less, but back here the computer was really tiring me out. It was really hitting me bad. So I cut down the computer. I spent a lot of time lying down, a lot of time, just resting, listening to audiobooks, blah, 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 blah. And that, together with the 4 days a week, I was improving. I was going up slowly, but I was improving myself. And then we started to get to this point, which was the end of the this big project deadline. So the stress started to go up. I was still working 4 days a week, but the stress was going up. And that sort of stress counts as draining your energy. So I put it up here. And I sort of stopped getting better at this point. That was partly because of the deadlines. It was partly because lying down doesn't help you after a point. You get to a point, and I think my point was about 65, where I lied down and I wasn't feeling like I was getting better. So if you're down here, lying down helps you amazingly. If you're here, lying down doesn't help too much. It helps if you've been out all day doing something and you feel really tired in that day, then you lie down and you recover. But it wasn't an overall CFS improvement like it was in the start of 2019. It just stopped helping in terms of overall. So anyway, I kind of flatlined here, and I was like, you know what? This was obviously not fun. This area as well. It was better. It was better than here, the end of 2018, because that was really painful. So this was better, but I could still feel myself, not having a lot of fun during that period. And there's probably a spike over here in the last week before I went on leave, because that was massive at work. It was very, very crazy. But anyway, I was just holding on until I got my leave, started long service leave, and boom, my activity levels dropped down through the toilet. Went down, and instantly I started getting better. So technically we're right here, almost. We're right where my mouse is right now. So this is the future. All of this stuff. This is what I'm hoping will happen. I'm hoping I get back to up to 85, maybe even 90, maybe 90 up here. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm hoping for. And the reason this activity graph is going up and not just flatlining is because of this lying down thing. I mean, lying down, after a while, it just stops helping, and it's all to do with keeping up with your threshold, I guess. So it's not enough just to put the activity down to 0 and then you just get better. I think that helps. It helps amazingly. If you're at a low level, like 60, 65, then dropping this down will improve you very, very fast. And I might be able to get up to 80 like that. But I want to get up as high as I can. And I think at that point, you got to try and match your physical activity up a little bit higher. Yeah. So So that's the lesson I kind of learned when lying down. It helps for a while and then it stops helping. So right now, where I am right now, so when I go out for a walk, I'm not pushing myself because it's not above my threshold. It's way below my threshold. So if I didn't walk, this would just be a flat line here if I didn't leave the house. But you can see it's so far below where my energy is that I don't understand, but it's 100%. It might make sense that you just do leave this red line blank and then you go up even faster. That kind of makes some sort of sense. But I have a feeling that to really push this red line up, to push the blue line up, the red line can't be at 0. It has to be at some level there. And I think, for me, that's because you actually need to have physical fitness. You've got to improve your physical point of view. So obviously, I'm not going to jump up to 120 again, because that would just be a stupid idea. But I've got to push it a little bit. And I feel, when I go out to walk, every part of my body is in agreement. I've got a part of my body that says, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to add my, can I do this? What happens if I go over to this view? Yeah, okay, there's my camera back. I don't really care if I block out the bottom left half of the graph anymore. So, yeah, so basically every part of my body is in agreement because I say, okay, do I want to go out for a walk? My energy level says yes, a walk is a good idea. Physically, yes, it's a good idea. So if those two things agree, physical and energy levels, then I'm going to go for a walk. And I have definitely improved my physical fitness over the last week. So yesterday, as I mentioned, I went for 3 walks. And that was after a shopping day as well. So I went for shopping. I did my shopping at like 11 a.m., pushed it back a few hours, and still got the cooking done in the afternoon because I got back in time. So that was awesome. But yes, I did a shopping day, pushing around the trolley, and I did 3 walks. And I felt like doing it. It was not a case of pushing my threshold. It was that my energy threshold was high, that I wasn't actually getting close to it. I was way below my energy threshold in terms of what I was doing during the day. It's kind of like from the mental point of view, well, when I had the no computer day, I did nothing all day. I did puzzles, I did reading, and I was just so much below the intellectual stimulation point that I was actually getting tired. I was actually getting exhausted. Now that's I'm not trying to compare that with the physical one, because the physical one is different. You don't get tired if you don't do enough, if you don't go out to walk. I don't think that's the case at all. I think if you do nothing, your chronic fatigue will just stagnate. It won't get better, it won't get worse. But if you want to really push it up, if you want to push that blue line up, then you've got to try and you've got to try and push your threshold a little bit, I think, is what I'm saying. Now, obviously, this is me right now, so my activity is down here on my blue lines. That's a big gap. So I don't want to just leave that gap there. Now, I'm not saying that, like, if you're in this situation and your energy is below your activity level, or if they're the same, if they're like here and they're exactly the same, don't go to walks in this situation, okay? That's not what I'm saying. Because if your red is at the same as your blue, then any physical activity you're doing counts as pushing yourself. Anytime you try and get the red above the blue, that's pushing yourself. That's the definition of pushing yourself. Never do that. Never, ever, 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 ever try and push the red above the blue. I mean, just don't do it. It's a dumb idea. If you've got to work full time, like I was doing here, then cut everything down. Cut everything else down to try and keep this red as low as possible. If you got to work, you got to work. I mean, even saying that though, if you're in this situation, do what I did. Work less days, plan for some long service leave, get it done, get it into this situation where you can start to push the blue line up. But again, if you're in this situation where your red line is way below the blue line and you can feel it, you feel like you've got the energy, and this is something that you will feel. I felt it back here when I took a month off after 3 weeks of not working, I felt I had energy. I didn't go out and I didn't start walking because I knew I was going back to work soon. So I was like, don't try and do it. Just stay home and rest. But I felt like I had energy. And definitely now I feel like I got loads of energy. So if your red is well below the blue, then by all means go out there. And I'm not going to say push yourself, because you're not pushing yourself. You're only pushing yourself when the red goes above the blue. I'm going to say spend that energy. If you feel like you've got extra energy, like a fair bit of extra energy, go out and spend that energy. See what happens. If you feel like you don't have any energy at all, or if you feel like you've only got a little bit of energy, then don't spend it. But if you feel like you've got a fair bit, then spend it. Now, yeah, let's talk a little bit about this spending energy and this holding on to energy and feeling when you're tired and feeling when you're pushing yourself. Because this graph is all well and good, but I can only graph this graph because I've become an expert, not so much in CFS, but in monitoring my own body. So in knowing when I'm tired and when I'm not tired. And that is a skill that it took me quite a while to learn. It's not really that hard, but it is hard. I'll explain that. So it's not hard to know when you're tired, but what's hard is knowing when you need to listen to your body. And when you've got CFS, listen to it 100% of the time. Always listen to it. And if you're feeling even a little bit tired, then you've got to make a decision at that point, because it's really about scaling down your how you feel, like down to the very low levels. I'll give you an example. So most people, and this will mostly apply to people without CFS, they go to work and they feel a little bit tired in the morning, and they're like, all right, I'm still going to go to work. And then by the end of the day, they feel a bit more tired, but then they wake up and they're mostly okay. And maybe they felt a little bit tired that morning because they stayed up too late the last night. Whatever. You feel a little bit tired, you just push through. That's what normal people do, because you can bounce back. If you start feeling really tired, you go home, you watch some TV instead of playing with your kids or whatever you normally do, and you regenerate the energy a little bit more. So that's beautiful. That's what most people do. CFS is a little bit different, but the concept is still the same. If you feel a little bit tired and you go to work and then you feel really tired, but then the next morning you still feel really tired because your ability to regain that energy is not great because you've got CFS. So what does that mean? It means when you're a little bit tired, you have to kind of pay attention. And it's to do with, I think the two main things that's to do with is confidence and willpower. So you've got to be confident in your ability to take care of yourself. And that's a really, really big deal with people with CFS, because most of them don't know what the hell's going on. It's so complicated and it's so easy to screw yourself over. And when your boss says, I need you to work a little bit extra, I mean, most people with CFS are just going to say, yeah, sure, because, I mean, what's the alternative? You say, oh, I can't do that, I'm too tired. Oh, I've got CFS, and CFS means that I can't do this, or I can't do that, blah, 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 blah. It's a shit excuse. It really is, because CFS, I mean, as JJ mentions, CFS is invisible. Nobody knows you've got it. I mean, and it just makes you tired. I mean, yes, if you've got the fibro as well, you get pain as well. Thank God I don't have fibro. I've just got the energy loss. I don't have fibro, thank God. But yeah, it's basically the really bad thing about CFS is how you deal with it is indistinguishable to other people from somebody who's just lazy. If you're just lazy, you're just going to say, oh, I don't want to do it. And yeah, maybe you look a bit tired, but I don't know. I was in a performance meeting once and I felt like shit and I had circles under my eyes. And we were talking about, what am I going to do, in the future and blah, blah. I was talking about him and I said I had a CFS and I just looked at him and I was like, do I look tired to you? Do I look exhausted? And they're like, no, you look fine. I felt like shit. I felt so bad, but they just said, no, you look fine. Now, I got circles under my eyes, but they're not always visible. And that's kind of the only indication, dark circles under my eyes. And nobody really notices them. So yeah, it feels like crap to tell people that you've got CFS, but you got to do it. You got to say, I'm not working on the weekend because I got CFS and it's a bad idea. That's what you got to say. You got to tell your boss that sort of stuff. And that takes confidence, okay? I'm actually feeling myself get a bit emotional about this. Let's just take a drink. Let's just roll this back a little bit. I don't know if there's Asperger's, but I get emotional about some things. There we go. I'd like some chips as well, but there's no chips here. Probably in the fridge, because I put them in the fridge because if I leave them out there, they tend to go off. But then it's like, oh, I'm in the middle of a video and I want a chip. Oh, the fridge is on the other side of the house now, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so you definitely need confidence and willpower. You need to say, all right, doing this extra work is going to make me crook. It is going to make me worse. So I need to stand up and say, I can't do it. And that's confidence. You got to have that confidence. Especially if you're in a job, everybody else is doing more work than you. Everybody else will always be able to do more work than you. You just have to, and it's so hard to go against the crowd. It's so hard to say, no, I don't care. You guys are all awesome. I am going to be substandard. That's my choice. I'm making a choice to be substandard. And yeah, and you got to have the willpower as well to follow through on it. And the willpower is less for work, but more for your local, your home life, your social life. If people want to come over, or if people want to go out hiking or something like that, that takes confidence as well, but also takes willpower, because it's depressing having CFS. You're just like, oh, this sucks, life sucks, blah, blah, blah. And you probably don't go out and do a whole lot, which means you probably don't have a lot of friends who are banging on your door and saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that, blah, blah, blah. So when somebody comes over and they say, hey, you want to go out and you want to do this, you want to do it. It's probably even harder for other people, because I got Asperger's, so I don't like, going out and hanging out with people in the best of circumstances. But anyway, if you don't have Asperger's and you do have chronic fatigue, it's probably even harder, because you want to go out and do that sort of stuff. You want to go out and have fun. You want to forget that you have CFS. And that's what going out and having fun is all about. You go out, you hang out with friends, you're clubbing, you're dancing, you're drinking, you're doing whatever. By the way, don't drink. I think drinking is bad for CFS in terms of dietary stuff, so don't do that. But anyway, going out, doing that sort of stuff, you forget that you have CFS. You forget that you're sick, and it feels so much better. But then you feel like shit because you went out, and you shouldn't have gone out because you pushed the red bar too high. That's where willpower comes in, okay? I'm fucking getting emotional again, and I just swore in the video. Okay, so the point is, you need the willpower to make sure that you keep that activity low. And it doesn't just involve going out and having fun with friends. It's also a big part of it for me. A big part is the computer. I would play computer 24/7. This whole period here was a very, very tough for me, because I had to constrain myself from the computer. I had to cut down on my computer. I actually knocked up a graph. I wonder if I can actually pull that up now. I don't think I've had it up for a while. So if I pull this up, File Explorer. It's in the middle. Let's move that over to there. Let me find this graph, or this this thing. It's going to take me a little bit. Probably should have had that. Health, is it under health? No, weekly goals. Yes, this is it. Okay, so let me just run through this really quick, because if we go back to the graph, right now when I was lying down less computer, this took a lot of willpower, and I'm not great with willpower, and it's hard to just say, don't do this. Just don't play computer. Like, it's very hard to do. So what I did was this system, and this system was genius, if I don't say myself. So basically what we've got is, we got negatives and we got positives. So this, and then basically every week I would go through and ignore the bonus column. I would basically say, this is what I'm doing. So -1 for every minute I spent on the computer, -0.75 for every minute I spent on the iPhone, -480. So that's technically 8 hours of computer for every day I was at work. And then I would have positives. So whatever I spent on the computer, whatever I spent on work, I would try and make up for it to get a net positive for the week. So lying down was amazing. So that's worth 2.5 per minute. Ignore daily bonus. I don't know what that's about. Doing other stuff like listening to audiobooks was 1.5. And reading was 1. Reading is only 1 because you still got to use your eyes. You're not looking at a screen, but you're still using your eyes. Audiobooks are better because you're not using your eyes at all. Puzzles, board games, you're using your eyes, but it's a bit more distant. You're not reading, so that's a bit better. So I had this system set up, and as you can see, I went through a long time, and then every week I would add the bonus, whatever I got, to my total bonus if it was above 0. And whenever it got to 1,000, so whenever this saved bonus got up to 1,000, I would buy myself a treat, which in my case was a pack of Tim Tams. Of course, this entire system fell apart when I figured out that Tim Tams were actually causing me to be fatigued because of all the sugar. But if you remember the lake analogy that I did on day 4, Tim Tams during most of this period the spike was so far down, it was such a low level of causing me fatigue that I didn't even notice it compared to everything else. But as I got better, as I improved, then suddenly Tim Tams were causing a bigger problem. So I had to stop buying them, and I was just like, I've been miserable ever since because I love my Tim Tams. If you're not in Australia, then I tell you what, you're missing out. You're missing out on Tim Tams. They're the best food in the entire world. Yeah, and it probably contributed to me being still 95. But anyway, so that's the system I did. Let's go back. So this is the sort of system you can make up that will help you to balance it, because you have something that you love doing but is bad for you, which is the computer, and then you have something that you don't really like doing but is good for you, so lying down, and then you balance these two out, you give them variables, and then if you work towards it. So this is what you're doing. You're working towards a positive number in the end, and if you reach that positive number, then you get a reward, like a Tim Tam or something like that. And this whole process was amazing, absolutely amazing. This helped me improve. This helped me get this blue line up there. And then, of course, I reached the point where lying down didn't really improve my health anymore, so I threw this system away after a while. And I just sort of... At that point, I was good enough that I could sit down and I could play computer and I'd be fine. For the most, I could just computer anytime I wanted. If I got tired, I would lie down. But it was very ad hoc. I didn't need a system anymore because I wasn't that bad. I was better. So I just play computer whenever you want. And then if you're tired, you lie down. And I was still doing 4 days a week. So that's the kind of the transition of that system. And yeah, but the willpower is the thing. And I didn't have the willpower to turn off the computer, to just say no computer. So that's why I had to make that system, because it was a way of meeting my goals while using less willpower. Well, still using willpower, but because it's a system, you get yourself into that system. Let's go back to it. You get yourself into that system, you commit to the system. It's easier to commit to a system than it is to commit to say, oh, I'm just not going to play computer games as often. Because it just creeps up on you, especially if you're a dirty addict like I am, where you just say, I'm not going to play computer. And then you're just like, oh, I'm so bored, I want to play computer. This system, the beauty of this system is you can play as much computer as you want. You can play as many hours of computer as you want. You can just play a crap load of them. And you still got a possibility of coming out ahead and getting the bonus. Like, Look at these huge numbers, like 2,000 minutes. That's, I don't know how many hours that is, but that's like 30, 35 hours a week on top of work. That's how much computer I played. That's a lot. And for this particular week, 2,000, you can see I still almost came out on top. Almost had a bonus. Because the system allows you to still work, to still succeed. So you just spend a lot of time, 810 on audiobooks, 1,080 on lying down. So you'd play as much computer as you want. Then you put in the numbers, and then you say, okay, I'm way down. I need to go lie down to balance out that number, to balance out that huge amount of computer. So you lie down for 2 hours, and you listen to audiobooks for 2 hours. You can do them at the same time, which is awesome, which is kind of cheating, but whatever. 2.5 plus 1.5. I mean, that really was a 4, lying down, listening to an audiobooks, because the really good thing about audiobooks is your eyes are closed. So you're lying down and your eyes are closed. If you're lying down and you're using an iPhone while you're lying down, that's great, but it's not as good, not nearly as good. So yeah. So you've got a massive negative number from all the computer. You go and you lie down and you listen to an audiobook. And at that point, you're working towards your Tim Tams. You're working towards your progress, but you're also working towards curing yourself from chronic fatigue. And that's the important thing. This is, like I said, having a system that allows you to make doing the boring things that actually cure you worth it. And that's what you need to do, because you can, as soon as you find out you're diagnosed with chronic fatigue, you're like, oh my God, I got chronic fatigue. I need to do something about this. And you spend a few weeks lying down and getting better. And then you just get bored and you can't keep going. You just can't keep going. This is 5-6 months that I kept this up. So that's a fairly long time to keep up the routine to get yourself better. And you need to be able to do it for 5-6 months in order to get that improvement. I mean, this is how it's very gradual, and the improvement, I mean, I'm really improving fast because I'm not working, but if you want to improve while you're working, which I didn't really have a choice, I couldn't have asked for 6 months off and gave my boss like a few weeks notice. I just couldn't have. So anyway, I had to work for those 6 months off, did the 4 days, and I improved over there because of the willpower. So that's the willpower that keeps you going, or that makes sure that you can get that stuff going. And yeah, once you got the willpower and once you got the confidence, then you can start to improve your energy threshold. And then you just need to be able to really tell when you've got energy and when you don't got energy, when you're approaching your threshold and when you've got a ton of threshold left. And that's when you can start to do more things, like going out more, that sort of stuff. Planning, obviously, I've already talked about planning in a previous video, but planning, very important. Even if you feel like, oh, it's not a good idea to do this, if you say, I'm going to give myself 2 days off afterwards where I don't do anything, then it's probably okay. I mean, if it's just going out to have dinner with a couple of friends, then it's probably okay. If you're going out to hike, then if you're going out for like a 2-hour hike and you're giving yourself 2 days afterwards to rest, you are crazy, okay? You are absolutely crazy. A 2-hour hike is not the same as going out for dinner. A 2-hour hike is Armageddon if you've got CFS, okay? Do not do stupid things like that. That's the sort of thing that you need to have understanding of how that's going to impact you. And a lot of that understanding, this whole area, even after I was diagnosed, I didn't understand it. I mean, round about this area, sometime in the middle of this year, I went on a 2-hour hike with some people. They were like, oh, you want to do a hike? And I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? I just didn't know. I just didn't have the understanding. I thought, oh, a 2-hour hike, I'll give myself a day off afterwards to work it off. And to be honest, I think the day off helped, but I probably went backwards. I mean, that 2-hour hike probably resulted in some of this dip. Maybe even a fair chunk of it. Maybe losing weight wasn't the big thing. Maybe it was that 2-hour hike I did one random day that caused a big drop. But my God, because this drop, I can't quite put down what caused this drop. I'll be completely honest. I know the drop definitely happened, and the only thing I can really think of is losing weight. Maybe there was this 2-hour hike in the middle of it. Maybe it was just me doing stupid things. I still didn't fully understand the post-external malaise. So yeah, definitely. I'm going to link this in the description. Go and read it. Figure out what post-external malaise is. Get yourself that confidence. Get yourself that willpower. And because you know when you're going too hard, okay? You will feel it. Everybody feels it. Most of the time, people just push through, okay? You cannot afford to push through. But the first thing is recognizing when you are pushing yourself, when you are going too hard. And you will 100% already be feeling it. And if you're working, maybe it's hidden under all the work and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, definitely identify when you're doing it. Identify and learn to familiarize yourself with those feelings that you're going too hard, that you're feeling tired, because most of the time they're just under the surface and most people just ignore them. They just ignore them. You need to analyze those feelings. You need to understand those feelings. You need to get a lot better at identifying them. If you feel a little bit tired, that's probably just a grumble right now. You need to make sure that's an alarm bell going off. Even a little bit of tiredness, you need to make sure that's an alarm bell. And once that's an alarm bell, then you can start to avoid the things that really tire you out. So anyway, this is kind of my response to JJar. Once again, thank you very much for commenting and giving me all that information. It's hopefully I've demonstrated that I know what I'm talking about, but it is hard because it's so complicated. It's very easy for one person with CFS to assume that another person with CFS doesn't know what they're talking about, doesn't know what they're doing, because it's so difficult. But I just want to emphasize, I definitely know what I'm doing. I'm not pushing myself. If I've ever used the word pushing myself in a video to talk about walking, that's absolutely not what I'm doing. When I go out to walk, I'm not pushing myself. I'm trying to push. I just used the word push again. Frickin' oath. I'm trying to increase my activity to increase my energy threshold, because my activity level is so far below what my energy threshold is. And I can't say it without using the word push. But push means different things, like, I guess, yeah, it's a really, I've already said it, but it's a really hard thing to do, because here's the thing, graded exercise therapy is part of the process of getting better. I 100% believe that. It's the part of the process of getting better. You cannot just put the red line down to 0 and then expect your energy to go up to 100. It's not going to work like that. That's my experience anyway. Not sure if that's the same for everybody, but that's my experience. So you've got to get the red line below the energy, and then you've got to push. So at some point, you're kind of, the blue energy bar is going up, and you're trying to make it go higher by pushing the, is my hand in the, it is in the hand. So you've got to try and push the energy threshold up a bit by increasing the activity. You got to keep the activity less than the energy, but you still want to push that activity up to try and make the energy threshold go up faster. That's my experience, and that's my plan for this 4 months off. There's a big noise in the background. So, it's 8:30 in the morning already. Jesus, I've been talking for quite a while. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm talking about. That's my graph. So I think I've finished answering that comment, and hopefully given a lot of people a lot of really good information. I had a notepad on as well. Is there anything else? No, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I definitely hope that this has been helpful to some other people. And yeah, this is basically everything. Everything crammed into one daily vlog. I was This was going to be spread over a bunch of episodes, but yeah, it's all in one at the moment. So if you're going to watch one of these daily vlogs, this is going to be the one to watch, I guess. So anyway, I think I'm done. So let's switch back over to the main view so you can see my big old face. And yeah, I'm actually bouncing up and down on my chair. I've been doing this. I got twitchy leg syndrome. So my legs are always, they're moving quite a lot. So yeah, I'm bouncing up and down, but that's all right. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. And thank you very much to JJar for the concern. I know you said the video is upsetting, but I'm assuming that that's because you're concerned about me and you think I was heading down a dark path. But I hope I've convinced you that I'm not. And yeah, so there we go. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for the comment. And I will see you guys later. Have a good one.